What is up, guys? Nintenjoel here once again, and it is finally time for another review. A review that I've been actually promising a couple people for a long time. This is a very epic game, one that barely ever gets talked about. It's on the Game Boy Color, so it's just one of those games that gets kind of overlooked. It is fairly uncommon, though, and it's pretty fun. That game is Wendy Every Which Way. Yeah, that title's, Anyways, so Wendy Every Which Way, if you don't know who Wendy is, she is a friend of Casper the Ghost, and I believe she was on, like, the TV show. I don't know why the hell she has her own game, but it's pretty fun. It's a good game. So join me in this review, and let's see what this game is all about. Wendy Every Which Way was released on the Game Boy Color in 2001, and was developed by a company called WayForward and published by a company called TDK, which, if you're like me and grew up in the 80s, you remember them for making cassette tapes. At least that's how I remember them. What's interesting about these two companies is that they've had their hands in a couple platformers starring female protagonists, which have turned out pretty decent. Wendy Every Which Way definitely being one of them. I've heard the Sabrina games are decent as well and have been meaning to check them out. However, most notably, WayForward is the company that developed Shantae for the Game Boy Color, and that game is supposed to be amazing. I have not scored a copy myself because it is so damn expensive, but it is supposed to be pretty damn good, and a lot of games have been developed since then with the Shantae name. I don't know why I include that information for you guys. I guess I just feel it's necessary because there's going to be one person that watches this video and says, who made the game? Who developed it? Who published it? What year did it come out? And you know, that information I guess is important, but anybody can go onto Wikipedia or, you know, even GameFAQs.com and figure this stuff out for themselves. It's actually really hard for me to talk about that stuff. It seems scripted. It's not scripted at all. It's that I've had to actually say it about 20 times. 20 different takes of me throwing my hat and throwing a fit, so yeah, there you go. I guess I'll keep doing that, but really, if you want to find out who makes games, the best thing to do is just look it up. It's so easy these days. That's what I did. So what makes Wendy Every Which Way stand out from other platformers? Well, have you ever heard of a little game on NES called Metal Storm? Oh yeah, that one. That uncommon game with the badass mech and the ability to flip gravity and walk on the ceilings, walk on the ground, flip in the middle of the air. Yeah, well, Wendy Every Which Way has that exact same game mechanic. When I found that out, I was blown away and instantly ordered a copy of Wendy Every Which Way. In fact, I got that game before I got Metal Storm on NES. The thing about Wendy Every Which Way is that it does not use the gravity flipping mechanic as a gimmick. It is truly built into the game for a purpose. The game is completely designed with the gravity flipping mechanic in mind, and it is often like a puzzle platformer trying to figure out how to get around enemies and obstacles. Much like a game like Mega Man, this is actually a projectile-based game where you're actually shooting projectiles. At first you just have a single pea shooter, it only goes so far, it's not very powerful at all. But as you collect stars, your shooting power increases. First you get a longer range shot, then your shot gets bigger, eventually you get a spread shot, and then eventually your spread shot gets bigger. It really reminds me of having a shoot-'em-up power-up mechanic in this game, and it is a lot of fun. When you get hit, you lose one of your stars and go backwards in your power-up. If you die, you just die. You do not come back with any of your power-ups, and when you start a new level, you do not have any power-ups as well. You start as a clean slate every single level. That being said, if you hit spikes, you are screwed. If you hit spikes, you are instantly dead, and that makes for some really hairy platforming, especially in the last few levels where the levels are basically covered in spikes, floor to ceilings, and you have to figure out exactly where you're going to stand, where the enemies are going to land. If you flip them upside down, are they going to run into you? Are you going to run into them? At the end, there's a lot to think about, and I have to say the last few levels were pretty hairy. The last level is actually fairly easy. I'm not going to spoil it. There is only one boss in this game, and it is on that last level. And he's not too hard as well, but it does take you using the flipping mechanic a little bit. And I just didn't want to ruin the ending. When I watch reviews, I don't like the ending spoiled for me, or what the last boss is, so I figured I wasn't actually going to record that part for you, but show you the rest of the game. One other thing I'd like to mention, actually, it's very nice about this game, in addition to having infinite continues, there's also a password system, so if you don't want to, you know, play this all the way through at one time, after every single level you get a password, and it's only a 4-character password. It reminds me of Castlevania 2 Belmont's Revenge on Game Boy, and yeah, so it's a very easy password. Just take a screenshot or whatever, and yeah, there you go. You're right back to the beginning of whatever level you left off on, and because you start every level as a clean slate anyways, with no weapon upgrades, it doesn't really matter, so very easy to beat. You should have no problem beating it in a day or two, you know, if you don't want to do it all at once, and yeah, you'll have a lot of fun with it. As far as how the game is structured, you get 4 worlds. Every world has 4 levels, basically. There are 3 platforming levels, and then the 4th level is a bonus level. Well, the bonus levels are really freaking cool. They're basically side-scrolling shoot-'em-ups, where you can flip between up and down on your broom. Not really needed. They're very short, they're very easy, but it's still really cool to see this included in a platforming game. So every 4 levels you get a nice little side-scrolling shooter, and it's a lot of fun. Okay, graphically, this game is not going to blow anybody's face off. It is fairly basic, it's just a Game Boy Color game. That being said, for the product of the time, it's actually fairly well done. It's not ugly in any way, the color palettes are kind of nice sometimes, and some of the enemy designs are pretty neat, though you will be seeing the same enemies over and over quite a bit in this game. Okay, now usually I gush about video game music. I love video game music, especially 8-bit, 16-bit. It's my favorite stuff. I absolutely love video game music. This is going to be one of the few times and one of the few examples where I can truly say the music is not that great. It's grating sometimes, it's awkward sometimes, the sound effects actually cause the music to cut out sometimes, and so you can hear the sound effects instead of the music, and it's a little jarring. There are a couple tracks that are decent, but for the most part, this game's music is not a standoff. You just need to go to the intro screen, the very beginning of the game, to see what I'm talking about. It's just clunky and odd. So yes, this game is pretty much 100% about the gameplay mechanics and how well everything controls. The platforming is very intuitive, the controls are nice and tight. You can flip in the air very quickly, though you have to be quick sometimes. There was the level before the last level, the second to last level, was incredibly hard. There was an overhanging part where I had to basically turn my jump and like curve my jump and then flip in the middle of the air while there's an enemy right there, and it's just, I died probably 10 times on it. That was definitely the hardest level, and there were a couple spots like that. That being said, for the most part, this game is not too horribly difficult. There is an easy setting, and there is a hard setting. I decided to finish this on the hard setting because the EDC setting just seemed a little bit too easy for me. So you might want to keep that in mind when playing it. Okay, this game does have one more very interesting feature, and it's something that I've never seen in a Game Boy Color game. Not that I've played a ton of Game Boy Color games, but it's just something I've never seen before. If you pop Wendy Every Which Way into a Game Boy Advance, you are treated to a whole different world of levels. There's a whole nother set of levels on this game, and they are way harder. I tried it on my Game Boy Advance SP. This does not work on my Retron. You would think that because the Retron 5 recognizes Game Boy Advance carts, you would think it would somehow activate the Game Boy Advance levels in this, and it does not. They are not accessible. So, in closing, Wendy Every Which Way. Is this game worth owning? I'd say abso-frickin-lutely. If you like Metal Storm, or like any kind of gravity flipping mechanics, or just really cool platformers, you will totally dig this. It is something that when you look at it, you're going to say, this doesn't look special at all. It is pretty uncommon. There aren't many copies available online. When I got mine, it was worth about 15 bucks, and now it seems to go for about over 30, and I haven't had this that long, so it's definitely more of an uncommon game. Not something I see very often, but it is something I definitely recommend you pick up. There's somebody in the Southern Oregon Retro Gamers group that wrote a little review for this game not that long ago, too, and it was done very well. I'll see if I can put a link in the description box below and see if I can get a link to that. But yeah, it's just a really good game. A lot of people love it from what I've heard. It's just one that people don't really talk about, and I'm not really sure why. But if you love Metal Storm, here you go. Here's your next step. This is what you need. Or if you can't afford Metal Storm, you can get this one instead and experience basically the same type of gameplay. A little bit different, though. Definitely easier. So that's it. That's all I have for you guys. Nothing too overly complicated with this game. Like I said, musically, really not the greatest. Graphically, it's just kind of average, but damn it, it's all about that gameplay, the fast switching action, and just trying to figure out the puzzles, because sometimes it reminds me of a puzzle platformer, just because you have to figure out these levels. There's some levels, there's only certain ways you can beat it. I mean, there's spikes everywhere, you have to flip in the exact spots, and it can be hard, but yeah, totally worth your $1. Go play this. At least emulate it if you can't find a copy, and let me know what you think. Let me know in the comments below if you've played this before, or if you're planning on playing it. I highly recommend it. I love Metal Storm. It's a great game, very fun game, and Wendy Every Which Way is so similar. Plus, it's got like the shoot-'em-up elements with the upgrading of your weapons, and it's kind of cartoony and cute. It's just a cool game. Don't expect mind-blowing music, though. That's all I have to say about that. But anyways, that's all I have for you guys. Glad I finally got this review done. Glad I finally beat Wendy Every Which Way. Such a fun game. Thank you very much for watching. Please hit that subscribe button if you are not already subscribed. Please give me a thumbs up, and be sure to leave a comment. Like I said, let me know what you think of this game, or if this is something that you're going to try to pick up and play yourself. So that's all I have for you guys. Thank you very much for watching, and keep rocking the retro games.